Staying with track and field. But we bring it back home to the Caribbean as the inaugural Barbados Grand Prix took place on Saturday at the Usain Bolt Sports Complex in Cave Hill, St. Michael. Multiple local athletes returned home for the meet, with Shade Williams, two-time world champs bronze medalist, to stand out, winning the women's 400 meters in 51.15 seconds. The focus, however, was on Jamaica's men's sprint relay and mixed mile relay teams, who were looking to cement their spots at the World Championships set for Japan in September. The men's team of Buwaji and Krumi, Christopher Taylor, O'Dane McPherson, and Kadrian Goldson were hunting to go faster than 38.20 to occupy the final qualifying place in place of Nigeria. However, they fell short, clocking 38.46. Meanwhile, the mixed 4x4 team were in the final qualifying spot in the rankings, ran 3 minutes 15.06 seconds to win the event, which is outside of their season's best 3 minutes 11.06 seconds. Leighton Levy is still with us to discuss exactly what happened in Barbados. So the 4x1 men's relay team, they fell short. Not by much though, but it didn't come as a massive surprise.
Really, I mean, yeah, as I said before, this was basically like a C team going into this meet. The optimal time they wanted to run was probably 38:15 or thereabouts, and they fell short. I think for a couple of reasons. One, I think the exchanges weren't great, and of course the competition wasn't expected. I mean, wasn't as expected. Sorry. So I think Jamaica is going to have to depend on that London Diamond League meet in about over a week's time, when hopefully some of the big ones will be available. Because I think if you have a Kishane Thompson and a Rowan Watson and an Akeem Blake on a relay team with one other decent sprinter, the Jamaican team can run 37.9 without on the Bleak Seville, or 37.7, or somewhere in that region. I think that's possible. So I think once those athletes are going to be available in London, I think they will achieve the time. For the mixed relays, I don't want to preempt it, but for the mixed relays, again, they're going to have to assemble a proper team. I mean, 3:15 is not a bad time, to be honest. The time that was run at the Olympics last year, 3:11.06, 3:11.92, I think it was. They need to put some quality runners on the mixed relay team for them to qualify. If not, they're not going to make it to the World Championships. It's as simple as that. We can't keep not using our best athletes in that event and hope that some miracle is going to happen. I mean, Ranisha McGregor and company, they did a fantastic job on the weekend. 3:15 is not a bad time, but they need to run something closer to 3:10 or 3:09 to get in, because this team is on the bubble now at 16th. So if a team runs faster than 3:11.9 before they get into Tokyo, they're out. So they're going to have to run a faster time, and maybe again London might be the opportunity, but they need to put proper people on the team. And I mean, here's the thing: the 4x4 women have qualified. So I think not really, because they're on the bubble as well at 3:24.92. So I think they need to assemble our best athletes and have them run at one of these meets that are the Diamond League in London. Or there's one other opportunity as well. I'm trying to remember what it is right now, to get those qualifying times secured that they can get into the Tokyo Olympics, the Tokyo World Championship. Sorry. The reality is that we need our best runners to be able to do this. And in Barbados, that wasn't the case.
Is the window closing fast when you compare to the amount of meets that would have to contest?
The cutoff point is August 25th.
Right.
They have a meet in London, I think it's the 19th of July.
The 19th of July, yep.
Yeah, and then there's another meet somewhere in that window. If they don't find those windows, I don't know where else they're going to get those times, because there are the meets are going to be fewer now as it gets closer to the World Championships. And of course, there are going to be a couple more Diamond League meets, but at the same time, will those meets offer really opportunities? That's a big question. So they need to strike while the iron is hot. These guys are in great shape now. Most likely their coaches are going to load them up again to taper them again for the World Championships. So I think the earlier the better, because then you don't want to go into August, early August, when the athletes are most likely going to be doing a lot of heavy work to prepare them for the World Championships in mid-September. And you don't want them to be running loaded, as that term that I just explained to you earlier. You don't want them to be running loaded at these meets to qualify. You want them to be sharp. And right now they're sharp because they're just coming out of the national championships. So they can hold this peak for another couple of weeks. So next week, the 19th of July would be the best opportunity to get the qualifying time and then put that matter to rest so that the athletes then can then go back into their programs, reload and then taper back for the World Championships 7 to 10 days before the World Championship starts in mid-September.
Usually for the 4x4 mixed relays, the best athletes from the 400s don't usually take part. So, how much of a sacrifice would it be for qualification purposes, just to make sure that Jamaica is there, that we have some of our best 400-meter runners to help Jamaica qualify?
For the 4x4 women and the mixed relays, I think there are people like Leah Anderson, who was fourth at the national championships, and maybe Shanky Williams, who is the younger sister of Sharika Williams, the
Stacey.
third place finisher, Stacey and Williams. Sorry, yeah. So there are people who can come in and make this team a lot faster. Huh? And among the men, the options aren't that great, but I'm sure they can find people who are capable of going a little bit faster than the two guys that we're using right now. Because, look, as I said before, the time is not a bad time. 3:15 though is about 5 to 6 seconds off where they need to be, which means that you need to add you need to shave those seconds off all four legs, which means that you need to bring in people who are about just off of the top runners in Jamaica, and for that to be able to happen. But the key thing is that they have to be available, which is one of the challenges that I think the J3 is having in that regard, in the coaches making those athletes available at the points when they're needed to be able to run the times that will allow them to qualify. But I mean, to me, honestly, if there's a challenge, I think they should probably just scrap the mixed relays, because if we're not going to do it, what's the point? I mean, you're going to a world championship. The impetus is or the objective is to win medals, or to make a final and do well, not to be on the periphery looking in. So if they're not going to be able to find the best athletes to do it, might as well just say, listen, okay, fine, let's move on from that and focus on the 4x4 relays. I mean, not that I'm saying that they must marginalize the athletes who want to run the relays, but if they're not going to be available, then there's a point to it.
Spoken like a true Jamaican, filled with so much pride, Leighton Levy.
No, but the reality is this: you go to a world championship and Olympics, you send your best athletes, and you're not going to send your best athletes. You're defeating the purpose of the competition. Mm-hmm. Brazil send their best athletes when the Bahamas had their team with Shani Milawibo and Stephen Gardner. They send their best athletes. So if we're not willing to send our best athletes, and the coaches are not willing to send their best athletes to qualify for the mixed relays, then there is no point to it. You don't send your second best to a competition where the best in the world are going to be competing. You look at, for example, the Netherlands, right? They have time to get about running mixed relays, don't they? Mm. Right? And they win, and they medal. I mean, they fell short at the last time when Femke fell. But the reality is that if you're not willing to, and the athletes and coaches and agents are not willing to make their best athletes available for these events, then we should just probably move on to the events that we're going to have the best athletes available for. I'm not saying that they shouldn't try, but you need to try with your best athletes. If you send your best athletes and they fail, then so be it. But if you don't send your best, then you really have nothing to complain about.
All right, Leighton. I hear you. Thanks very much for putting in the double shift again.
Yeah, no problem, man. And just a quick point. Akira Nugent ran really well on the weekend, and of course, as you know, Donald, I think you should know, Ainsley Waugh, who used to run for Jamaica, 10.11 for the 100, 20.22 for the 200, lost his dad today. So condolences to his family as well.
Thanks for that, Leighton. I appreciate you and the time that you've taken with us here on the SportsMax Zone. We'll talk again soon. Take a break.
Bye bye.
Back with more interactive in particular after the break. Stay with us.